So additional topic number 6 is on the midpoint formula, distance formula, and circles. All right, most of this should be review, I would think. All right, so distance formula. So the distance d between the points x1, y1, and x2, y2 is d equals the square root of x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. All right, basically what this is the Pythagorean Theorem. So if you had a point here and a point here, so this top one's x2, y2, this bottom one's x1, y1. You're basically finding the distance between them, so you're finding the hypotenuse of a triangle that you can draw in like this. Do you guys see the right side of the triangle, the right leg? This one right here. It's just your change in your y values, y2 minus y1. You're changing your height. Your bottom of the right triangle is the change in the x values. So if you had just moved the square over, it'd be d squared equals change in x values. You don't have to write this. Plus change in y values, which ends up being Pythagorean Theorem. Like this would be a, b, c. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. Okay, that's all it's coming from. So when you need to, you can always draw out the right triangle and use Pythagorean Theorem. Okay, midpoint formula. Do you guys remember how to do this? Yeah, it's just the average of the x's, comma, average of the y's. That's it. So if you're finding the average of two numbers, you just add them together and divide by 2. So it's x1 plus x2 divided by 2, y1 plus y2 divided by 2. And it's a point, so we write it as a point, right, with our comma or parentheses. So number 1, it says find the midpoint of the segment with endpoints 5, -2, 3, 7. So you can write x1, y1, x2, y2 if that helps you. But basically when you're finding the midpoint, all you're doing is averaging the x's. So your x values were 5 and 3. It's 5 plus 3 divided by 2. Averaging the y's. So -2 plus 7 divided by 2. So you get 8 over 2, which is 4. You get 5 over 2, which is 2.5, or you can leave it as 5.5 over 2. It doesn't matter. Okay, do I need to draw that out, or you guys understand that concept? You got it? Okay. All right, find the distance between each pair of points. So the distance between each pair of points, so this one would be very easy to draw out and use that right triangle and use the Pythagorean Theorem. But when you guys have something like a point that's 125, 678, you're not going to want to draw that out. Okay, so we learned the distance formula. So d equals, you subtract your x values, and it doesn't even matter what order you subtract them in. So let's do 12 minus a -3 squared. Subtract your y values, so -3 minus 5 squared. It doesn't matter the order because you're going to square it anyway. So you get 15 squared plus -8 squared. So you get 225 plus 64. So square root of 289? 17? All right, thank you. So you get 17. It's not always going to come out nice and even. You can write it as a decimal or you can simplify the square root. It doesn't matter to me. All right, so the next one, so change in x's. So 1.5 minus the -0.5. Let me write that again. Minus -0.5 squared plus change in y, so 0 minus a -6 square. So you get 2 squared, right, because that becomes plus, and then 6 squared. So you get 4 plus 36 under square root. So you get square root of 40. If you simplify your square root, think about numbers that go into it evenly that are perfect squares. So you can take the square root of evenly. So 4 goes into it. So remember that's square root of 4 times square root of 10. In other words, it's 2 when you take the square root of 4 and square root of 10. So you can leave it like that. Or square root of 40 is what? 6.325, is that what I said? 325, okay. So I don't care which one you have, either way. All right, so it says find the center and radius of a circle that has a diameter with endpoints 5, 4, and 0, negative 8. Okay, this helps to sketch these. So 0, negative 8 would be way down here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 5, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, this is the diameter of our circle. So can you kind of visualize where our circle is? Our circle is going to go something like this. All right, so we need to find the center of the circle. How do I find the center of the circle? Midpoint, right, so use the midpoint. So our midpoint, we're going to add the x's, divide by 2, add the y's, divide by 2. So you'd get 2.5, comma, negative 4 over 2, so negative 2. Okay, and always look and see if that looks about right. 2.5, negative 2. Looks pretty good on mine. If it's nowhere close, I would check your work. All right, so that's the center. Okay, now how do I find the radius? Distance? I could do the distance from one of those points to the center. Or you could do the total distance, which would be diameter, right, between the two original points, and then divide by 2. So let's find the diameter. So my diameter is going to equal change in the x's, so 0 minus 5 squared plus negative 8 minus 4 squared. Doesn't matter what order. So you'd have negative 5 squared, so 25. And then you have negative 12 squared, which is 144. So you get the square root of 169, which is 13. Okay, that's your diameter. So that means your radius is diameter divided by 2. So 13 divided by 2 is 6.5. So we have our center and we have our radius. That's it. I think you guys have one like that on your homework. All right, so we kind of started talking about a circle. So hopefully you guys remember circles from geometry. We're not going to do all of the, like I call it the ice cream cone theorem and stuff, like the tangents. You know what I'm talking about? Like this, saying this is equal to this. We're not doing things like that. So don't worry, it's not really bad. We're just going to talk about like the equation of a circle. So it says the set of points in a plane that are fixed distance, called the radius, away from a fixed point, called the center. That's what a circle is. Okay, so write the equation of the circle with center, negative 3, 4, and radius 6. Okay, so we want all the points that are an equal distance, so this distance 6, away from negative 3, 4. So we want all points x comma y that are a distance of 6 from negative 3, 4. Okay, this is a math equation saying our distance is going to be 6. So when I write my distance formula, 6 equals the distance between xy and negative 3, 4. So if I'm saying between xy and negative 3, 4, I'm going to say x minus a negative 3 squared plus y minus 4 squared. So it's going to be x plus 3 squared. Notice how the sign is different than what we had before. Like for our center, we had negative 3, and now I have plus 3 because I did x minus that. And then the last thing we usually do is we will get rid of the square root because we don't like writing square root all the time. So if I square both sides, you get 36. So 36 equals x plus 3 squared plus y minus 4 squared. And you can do that all the time to get the equation of the circle. or you can just memorize what the equation of a circle would be. So we talked about like equations of lines, it's always y equals mx plus b, right? Equations of circles always look like this. X minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. And it's because of that method that we just did. See how we squared our radius and got 36? Our hk was our center, negative 3, 4. The sign's changed. It's minus h minus k now. So we had plus 3 and minus 4. All right, so if I write the equation of the circle with center 5, negative 2, h is 5, k is negative 2, r is 8. So it's x minus h, so minus 5 squared, plus y minus k, so minus a negative 2 squared, plus 8 squared. So it's x minus 5 squared plus y plus 2 squared equals 64. That's our equation. Easy enough? So write the equation of the circle with center negative 4, 11, containing the point 5, negative 1. Okay, like I said, sometimes it helps to sketch it out. If you guys need to sketch it, it's fine. If you have negative 4, 11, run out of room. It's up here somewhere. And it contains the point 5, negative 1. Okay, that's your center. Think how big this circle is going to be. It's going to go around like that, right? What's one thing you can find right away? The radius. Your radius connects the center to that point. So that would be using the distance formula. Your distance is going to be the difference between our center and the point. So I'm going to say negative 4 minus 5 squared plus 11 minus a negative 1 squared. So change in x's, change in y's. So I get negative 9 squared. Negative 9 squared is 81. I get 12 squared, which is 144. 81 plus 144 is 225. Square root of 225, I think, is 15. 15 is your radius. Maybe I should call it r so you guys don't get confused. R is equal to. And then what? What'd you say? Speedy. All right, so r is equal to 15. All we need for our equation of our circle is r, h, and k. Do we have all three things? Yeah. So it says center is negative 4, 11. That's hk. So it's x minus h, so minus a negative 4, squared, plus y minus k squared, plus r squared, or equals r squared, equals 15 squared. So I get x plus 4 squared plus y minus 11 squared equals 225. And we never FOIL any of that out. Like, we just leave it like that. All right, tangent, you guys probably remember it's a line that just intersects a circle in exactly one point. I always remember tangent touches. So in geometry, you learn them tangent to a circle is perpendicular to the radius at what's called the point of tangency. So this point right here is called the point of tangency. And this line right here is called the tangent. So it says write an equation for the line tangent to the circle, x squared plus y squared equals 29 at the point 2, 5. Okay, it helps to kind of sketch it out. What's your center of your circle? Kind of tricky. There is no x minus h, y minus k, right? So what's the center? 0, 0. Do you guys see it? It's x minus 0 squared plus y minus. 0 squared. And then your radius is the square root of 29, which is kind of hard to draw. So basically, I know I'm going to be centered at the origin. My circle is going to go around, and its radius is going to be square root of 29. Okay, 2, 5 is a point on the circle, and I'm going to be tangent to that point. Okay, the thing that's important about a tangent is that if I draw a radius in, so if I draw this line in, it's going to be perpendicular at that point. Okay, do you guys remember that from geometry? Tangents are perpendicular at the point of tangency. So that's a 90-degree angle right there. All right, we know we're at the point 2, 5, and this point was 0, 0. 2, 5. Okay, I need to somehow figure out the equation of that line, the red line. Okay, I know a point that it goes through 2, 5, but I need to find its slope. Right, if I have the point and a slope, then I can find the equation of the line. But I don't have the slope. I know I have a 90-degree angle. What can I do? Not quite Pythagorean Theorem. Okay, how about this line here? So the green line. So I'm going to say slope of green line. Can I find the slope of the green line? Yeah, I have 2 points, right? So we're using 2, 5 and 0, 0 to find the slope of the green line. So it's 5 minus 0 over 2 minus 0, change in y over change in x. So it's 5 over 2. Okay. So what's our slope of our red line? Negative 2/5. How'd you guys get that? It's perpendicular, so it's the opposite reciprocal. Okay, so now we have the slope of the red line, and we have a point on the red line. So it goes through 2, 5 with m equals negative 2/5. So that means I have y minus 5 equals negative 2/5 times x minus 2. Do you guys remember that equation? Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. That's point slope form. You guys will need to know that for your final. And we just multiply out. So I get negative 2/5 x minus, so I have negative 2/5 times a negative 2. So you can write it off to the side, negative 2/5 times a negative 2, think of it as negative 2 over 1. You get 4/5, right? So plus 4/5. You're going to add the 5 over. So you get y equals negative 2/5 x plus, so if you have 4/5 plus 5, if I get common denominators, I'm going to multiply by 5 over 5 to get common denominators, so I have 25/5. 25/5 plus 4/5 is 29. So 29/5. You could also use the decimal, that's fine. So that's your answer. Is that it? Okay, a couple more. All right, so you guys try number 2. So same kind of thing. So it says write the equation of the line that's tangent to the circle, x minus 1 squared plus y plus 2 squared equals 25 at the point 5, negative 5. So if you draw it out, I think it will really help you. You guys know the center of the circle. You can find the radius of the circle is 5, right? So draw it out. All right, so you need to sketch it out. So it looks like h is 1, k is negative 2, r is 5. So I'm going to go 1, negative 2, that's my center. My radius is 5. So the easiest way to draw the circle is to go up 5 from the radius. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then I go right 5 from the radius. Down 5. So I go all 4 different directions. And left 5. And then I draw my circle in from there. It's much easier to draw the circle once you have a few points. It's still not very good. Okay, and you're finding the tangent at the point 5, negative 5. So 5, negative 5 is over 5, down 5. So somewhere around here. So we want this tangent line. So what we need is the line to the center. That's a 90-degree angle. Okay, you can find the slope of the radius. So slope of the radius. So your slope of your radius, that's going from the points 5, negative 5, and the center, 1, negative 2. So my slope is going to be change in y over change in x. So negative 5 minus a negative 2 over 5 minus 1. So I get negative 3 over 4 is my slope. So that means my slope of the tangent is going to be the opposite reciprocal. So instead of having negative 3/4, I'm going to flip it and make it the opposite sign. So it's going to be 4/3. That tangent line has the point 5, negative 5 on it. So we're using m equals 4/3 and the point 5, negative 5 to find the slope, the equation of the tangent line. So it's y minus a negative 5 equals 4/3 x minus 5. So I'll let you just leave it as y plus 5 equals 4/3 times x minus 5. So you can leave it like that, that's fine. You could also multiply it out and get it in the form y equals mx plus b. Okay, and the last thing we're going to talk about is completing the square. Do you guys remember completing the square? It's been a while. All right, remember, in order to complete the square, you do what I call have it and square it. So you're going to have it and square it. All right, these ones are going to be really easy because we're not going to have a number in front of our x squared or our y squared. So that's kind of nice. Okay, so basically what you want to do is get all the x's together, y's together, numbers together. So I have x squared plus 6x. And I'm going to leave a little space, plus y squared, I don't have any more y's, equals, I want the number on the other side. So x's, y's, numbers. So you're always going to separate like that. Okay, if you remember, we want something with x to be squared. And then we want plus something with y to be squared. Now y is already y squared. There's no other y. So the k value, like the center point, has a y value of 0. Okay, so we want it in this form. So we need to take the number in front of our x. We need to have it and square it. So do 6 divided by 2 squared, right? It's always the b value divided by 2 squared. Do you guys remember that? So 6 divided by 2 squared is 3 squared, which is 9. We end up adding that to both sides of the equation. So I'm going to have 7 plus 9 over here. So see how I added it there and there. Now the reason we do that is because x squared plus 6x plus 9 ends up working out to be something times itself. What's it end up being? Yeah, if you factor it, it's x plus 3 times x plus 3, right? So it's x plus 3 quantity squared. Okay, that's what we want. We want to see it like that. X plus 3 squared equals y squared, or sorry, x plus 3 squared plus y squared equals 16. Now it's in the form for the equation of a circle. So what's my center? Close.
Negative 3.
Negative 3, 0. And what's my radius? 4. It's the square root of 16, right? 4. All right, so you guys try this one. This one you're going to have to complete the square on both the x's and the y's. So you're going to get all the x's on one side. So we're going to have some kind of blank there. All the y's together. So we'll make that one a circle. Subtract the 1 over, and you're going to add on the square and add on the circle. Okay, so you need to figure out what goes in the square and what goes in the circle. All right, so you do your b divided by 2 squared. Now in this case you have two b values. So you're going to take your negative 2, you're going to divide it by 2, and you're going to square it. And you're going to get negative 1 squared, which is 1. That's what goes in this first little square. And we need to add it to both sides of the equation, so that's why I drew the squares on both sides. I'm trying to make this as easy as possible. All right, and then we still have to do negative 8 divided by 2 squared. So that's negative 4 squared, so you get 16. That's what you put in the circle. So you add it to both sides of the equation to keep it balanced, so add it over here. Now the reason we do that is because now we can factor x squared minus 2x plus 1. X squared minus 2x plus 1 factors into x minus 1 times itself. So x minus 1 squared. How does y squared minus 8y plus 16 factor? Yep, y minus 4 squared equals negative 1 plus 1 plus 16. It equals 16. So my center, so it's in my equation of a circle form. My center is 1, 4. My radius is 4. Does it make sense? Usually I'll try to make it nice for you where you'll have a nice even radius. Like I won't make you take like the square root of 20 or anything most of the time. Okay, and then let's skip 5. You guys can do that, I'm sure. And let's look at 6 because you do have some like this on your homework. So it says find the equation of the circle with center 4, 5. These aren't hard at all. So 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it's going to be tangent to the x-axis. The x-axis is the horizontal axis. That means it's just barely going to touch the horizontal axis. So if that's your center, it's going to come down, it's going to barely touch, and go back up. It has to touch right there at 4, 0. Do you guys see that? So you can find your radius. Your radius is very easy to find. You don't even have to use the distance formula. You can count because you're just counting straight up, right? So your radius is what? 5. It was the distance from height of 0 to a height of 5. So r is 5. Your center is hk. We already have that. So your equation of your circle is x minus 4 squared plus y minus 5 squared equals 5 squared, so 25, and that's it. Okay, sometimes I'll say perpendicular to the, or tangent to the x-axis, sometimes I'll say tangent to the y-axis. Just always draw it out. It's very easy if you draw it out. Okay, so that's it.